Straight ahead on 12 News, home for sale in Maple Grove. One of the selling points, a former governor used to live here. Plus, a weed that can quickly take over your yard. We're in the garden to show you what you need to know about garlic mustard. But first, a Brooklyn Park homeowner who won't be swimming in his pool anytime soon.
We were sleeping and we heard the cops pounding on the door like they were going to come through.
12 News starts right now. Hello everyone and thanks for joining us. A rollover accident this morning along Highway 252 in Brooklyn Park sent a driver to the hospital after police say he fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into someone's backyard.
As Blaine Cleveland reports, this isn't the first time such an accident has happened, and until new safeguards are put in place, residents fear it won't be the last.
I guess just bad luck or bad people.
This morning at around 8 a.m., bad luck in the form of a Chevy SUV rolled its way into Wayne Quigley's backyard along Highway 252 near 79th Avenue North.
Luckily, the fence wrapped around his car as he was rolling, because with the fence and with the pool, stopped him from going any farther.
The vehicle left a mangled mess of debris and a pool where people won't be swimming anytime soon.
We just set it up on Saturday, just filled it this week, and we'll have to buy a new one.
Brooklyn Park police say the 38-year-old driver was heading northbound on 252 when he fell asleep at the wheel and veered off the road.
He admitted to the fact that he fell asleep, and there was officers didn't get any indication that there was any alcohol involved in the accident. So at this point, we believe him.
But would you believe that this isn't the first time a car ended up in Quigley's backyard?
Memorial Day weekend of last year, 2014, Honda Civic left the highway the same spot, blew through our shed and ended up next to a pine tree here.
It's said that lightning never strikes the same place twice. Apparently, that same logic doesn't apply to motor vehicles.
All the neighbors can count about a dozen times where this has happened, and still the city or state hasn't done anything yet.
Despite their concerns, police don't quite share the same sentiments.
There's just a large number of cars on that roadway, but we're not seeing anything in design change that would help.
Quigley would prefer to see a retaining wall replace the chain link fence on 252. For now, though, he's just thankful that his swimming pool was the only casualty.
My wife's 3 months pregnant, and this could have been a whole lot worse. So I'd like someone to do something.
In Brooklyn Park, Blaine Cleveland, 12 News.
Police say the driver who fell asleep at the wheel suffered non-life-threatening injuries. In Robbinsdale, a school bus was involved in a minor accident that injured one child. It happened after school at 42nd and Welcome Avenues North. The child involved and the other driver both left with minor injuries. Officials at the scene said the bus was transporting students from the Robbinsdale School District.
A Plymouth man is without a job following hostile tweets he allegedly sent to the president's new Twitter account. Tweets posted by Jeff Gullickson caught the attention of the New York Times. Gullickson allegedly wrote, "We need rope for change," including an image of President Obama with a noose around his neck. It led to an ongoing investigation by the U.S. Secret Service. Gullickson said he did not intend to threaten the president and that the tweets were not meant to be racist. Gullickson worked at a used car dealership which fired him, though the company says it was not due to the tweets. However, it's cases like these that could cost most people a job. Employment law attorney Philip Willem says most people are at-will employees and they can be fired for what they post on social media.
If an employee were to cyberbully somebody in a social media setting, they could be terminated because, as I said, unless they have a contract, it's at will. And depending on the content of the Twitter or email or Facebook page, oftentimes employers, especially if it's a serious type comment, would terminate the employee.
Willem says as social media expands, the number of legal cases will too. His caseload has expanded dramatically in the past couple years, dealing with cyberbullying involving both professionals and students. Willem says his office now sees about 10 cases every couple of months. Now to a true sign of summer. This weekend, some local pools will be opening up to the public.
But as reporter Shannon Slatton explains, there's quite a bit of work to be done before opening day.
So they don't need to have the line up for the buoys, but they've got their blue transition line there.
The week before opening day at city pools is like a dress rehearsal for the water.
This is a pool test kit, checking for chlorine levels, chlorine disinfection residual.
Hennepin County inspectors check out hundreds of public pools like they are today in New Hope to make sure the pool is ready to go.
Right around Memorial Day is one of our busiest periods for pool openings throughout the pool season. Missing a ladder cap on this one here.
They check for the safety precautions they can see, like fences and life preservers.
All these hot dogs got to get replaced. They're all broken.
And inspectors also check what they cannot see.
It could be chlorine or bromine. We're looking for pH measurements, cyanuric acid, that's a chemical that keeps chlorine in the pool. It acts as a blanket.
They test the balance of chemicals, which is particularly important at a public pool that plans to open 7 days a week during the summer. If dozens of swimmers plan to play in these waters, they must be safe.
That's what's killing off the germs, bacteria, microbes that are in the water that could get swimmers sick as they're getting water in their mouth and splashing around.
It comes as no surprise that this pool is ready to go.
We make sure that it's safe for people to come in.
Matt Remore has been working on it for weeks.
It's a long process. I started over here at the beginning of May just to try to get everything cleaned up and ready to go.
During the season, he'll check the water as many as 4 times a day, and inspectors will be back to check in once more.
Inspectors can't be at every pool every day of the year, 24/7, but we hope that time of the year that we come out and have those important discussions with the operators makes a difference.
In New Hope, Shannon Slatton, 12 News.
The New Hope and Crystal Pool plans to open on Saturday. Inspectors from Hennepin County test pools for public use. Private property owners are responsible for checking their own pool.
16 dogs are at the Animal Humane Society in Golden Valley, now on the road to recovery from what's called a crisis situation in northern Minnesota. Squeaker here is one of those dogs. She and the others were kept tied up outside with little or no shelter. Humane Society officials say the owner realized he could no longer care for all of the animals and turned them over to the Golden Valley shelter. Many had scrapes and wounds from fighting with each other and surviving in poor conditions.
They were, some had some fight wounds, some had some bite wounds, just exposure issues. A lot of them had ticks coming in. And then behaviorally, he really wasn't able to give them the socialization they needed. Some of them are to the point that they're good enough that they can go to adoption pretty soon. Some of them are still pretty shut down.
Dr. Brayshaw says the owner turned them over before the situation reached the level of neglect or abuse. Some will be ready for adoption in a few days. The Humane Society also put out an urgent request for support to help care for the 16 animals.
Progress today at the state capitol, but still no word yet on when a special session will happen. However, there is potentially good news for the city of Plymouth. Legislative leaders included Vicksburg Lane construction funds in a negotiated bonding bill. It provides $4.7 million to put towards building a $20 million bridge over the railroad tracks on Vicksburg. City officials say the bridge will not only eliminate the troublesome bump that drivers face, but also prevents emergency vehicles from getting held up by trains.
There's a home in Maple Grove up for sale with a fairly unique history. This 5-bedroom home on Walnut Grove Lane used to be the home of former Governor Jesse Ventura. The 5,100 square foot house sits on an acre of land and is on the market for more than $700,000. Former governor hasn't lived or owned the house in several years. Coming up, an invasive weed that doesn't take very long to spread. We're in the garden to share what you need to know about garlic mustard.
And then a little bit later in sports, Maple Grove starts play at the state softball tournament with a close call.
But first, we continue to dry out Friday. Temperatures expected to reach the upper 70s.
Plymouth officials are asking residents to keep an eye out for an invasive plant.
Garlic mustard can be found almost anywhere in the city. Reporter Sonia Goins goes in the garden now to show us why it's so bad and what people can do to get rid of it.
It comes in everywhere, so I think that people don't really recognize what it is.
There are several adjectives to describe garlic mustard.
It's kind of sneaky. Like I say, it's pretty. It stinks.
The invasive herb develops in 2 stages.
The first year, it's just like this, a carpet, and it kind of looks like what we're most familiar with as Creeping Charlie.
And then it really takes off the second year.
Next year, that will bolt and be this seed-making monster. Each of those little bumps is a seed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Don't let
6,
the pretty white flowers fool you.
It consumes an area.
Garlic mustard
It's just going to keep going and going.
is a powerful plant.
Doesn't have any natural enemies, doesn't have any diseases. There's nothing in nature to keep it in check.
It also spreads rapidly.
The seeds spread and then it's in a new spot, and then the seeds spread and then it's in a new spot.
The weed has the potential to choke out native plants.
It takes up the area and the resources where, you know, good tree and shrub and good herbaceous plants should be growing.
You can get rid of garlic mustard by simply pulling it out by its roots.
Did you see all that effort? How hard that was?
But there are some good qualities to garlic mustard. The weed is used in Asian cooking, and some folks make pesto out of it.
Time for lunch.
For In the Garden, Sonia Goins, 12 News.
Laura suggests Plymouth residents bag up the garlic mustard and put it out with the trash, and she suggests writing the words invasive plants on the bag so the trash collectors don't think it's yard waste. Coming up, hockey fever spreads to a Brooklyn Park elementary school classroom.
But first in sports, highlights galore from a big night of lacrosse playoffs. John Jacobson is in next.
The state softball tournament started in the Mankato area Thursday morning. Maple Grove is aiming for a championship in Class 3A. The Crimson facing Woodbury in the quarterfinals. Bottom of the first, and Metro Player of the Year Sydney Smith puts a big swing into this pitch, driving it well over the fence in left field. A solo home run for Smith makes it 1-0 Crimson. In the pitching circle, Smith was her usual dominant self. She fanned 6 of the first 9 batters she faced and 14 in the game. Woodbury pitcher Ashley Mickshall keeps the game close, though. She gets a strikeout in the bottom of the third, stranding Crimson runners at second and third base. The Royals put runners at first and second with nobody out in the 7th inning, but Smith works out of trouble, getting a comebacker to end the game as the Crimson win 1-0. They're playing Eastview in the semifinals Thursday afternoon at 5. The championship is Friday at 1:30. We'll have more on this team Friday at 4 on 12 News. Wednesday was a big night of lacrosse playoffs as a number of local teams played in section finals. And there were some thrillers, too, starting with the Maple Grove boys against Wayzata in the Section 8 final. Top seed Wayzata gets off to a solid start. Amar Batra works around a pick, fires a shot home for a 4-1 Trojans lead. Maple Grove battles back. Hunter House takes the pass, makes a nice spin move and scores to make it 4-3. The Crimson, though, trail 6-3 at halftime. Tied 6-6 in the fourth quarter when Jack Kelly sends the pass out to Max Johnson. He scores on the long shot. And the Crimson lead 7-6, then later go up 9-6. Wayzata within 9-8, running out of time until Adam Grooms fakes and fires, scoring to tie at 9-9 with just 15 seconds left, and this one's headed to overtime. In the second OT, from a tough angle, Jake Wilson sneaks a shot in. Maple Grove is headed to the state tournament for the first time with a 10-9 2-overtime win. Also at Park Center, top-seeded White Bear Lake took on Osseo-Park Center in the Section 5 boys final. Mason Hodala scoring for OPC, tying the game at 1, 4.5 minutes in, but the Bears dominate play from there. Matt Swanson scores to make it 2-1 just 35 seconds later. Then Swanson sets up Connor Daynard for one of his 5 goals on the night. The Bears score 15 goals in the first half, and they win their 3rd straight section title, 21-4, Bears the final. The Champlin Park boys were looking to repeat as Section 7 champions. The unbeaten Rebels taking on Blaine in the final. Blaine's Tanner Jones from behind them makes a great spin move, buries a shot. As the Bengals open the scoring, they lead 2-0 after a quarter. Down 3-0, Champlin Park's Mason Schmidt beats the defender, bounces a shot in. The Rebels, though, trail at 4-1 at halftime. The third quarter is all Champlin Park. Trent Molnow uses a pick, gets free for the goal. It's tied 4-4 after 3. Down 5-4. Danny Fald sets up Gage Munson for the goal, and Champlin Park evens the score at 5. But late in the game, it's Jones to Ridge Garretts for the goal with just under a minute to play. Blaine upsets Champlin Park 6-5. Earlier at Irondale in the Section 7 girls final, Osseo-Park Center meeting Champlin Park. Champlin Park's Hannah Cribble scooping up the loose ball, puts a shot away, and the Rebels take a 1-0 lead. Osseo-Park Center goes in front. Hannah Foote spins, works her way out front to give OPC a 4-3 lead. But they can't stop Crimble. She goes over the top of the goalie to score for a 5-4 lead. It's 6-5 Rebels at the half. Holding a 1-goal lead at 8-7, Crimble puts the pass away to make it 9-7. She scores 7 in the game. Rebels hold on for a 9-8 win to advance to state for the second year in a row. The Wayzata girls pulled out a 1-goal game to beat Maple Grove in the Section 8 semifinals. That put them into the championship against Anoka. Late first half, Tyra Swanson scores from the free position in the rain, and the Trojans lead 4-2 at the break. Second half, Swanson again with a run to the goal and a great shot to make it 7-4 Wayzata. The Tornadoes rally. Ashley Muckway's goal ties the score at 7-7. But Wayzata gets the next two. Caitlin Riley scores to make it 8-7 Trojans. And then Haley Schmidt will whistle a shot in for a goal. And the Trojans go to state for the first time in girls lacrosse, 9-7. The weather clears up for the Section 8 championship between Armstrong and Irondale over at Osseo. Second half, Haley Holdall setting up Amy Master for the shot and goal for Armstrong. Holdall ducks at Irondale defender and scores for an 8-3 Falcons lead. Masters' pass is controlled nicely by Ella Halverson, and she spins and scores. Armstrong wins 10-3, and they go back to state for a third consecutive year. Armstrong Wayzata baseball was rained out Wednesday night. They will play their section final Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock down at Minnetonka High School.
All right, but those lacrosse players
they
getting
play
it
on.
done.
Soldier
That's
on
right.
in the rain.
That was a downpour. All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
John.
Still ahead, pro hockey players take on a new role for the day.
We'll introduce you to the Wild players who went to the head of the class when we come back.
And finally, one teacher stepped aside and let 2 Minnesota Wild hockey players lead a 5th grade class today.
When you guys commit to something, say, I'm going to do my homework. You go and do your homework.
It was a lesson on commitment and work ethic that Minnesota Wild defensivemen Jordan Leopold and Nate Prosser had for this class at Oxbow Creek Elementary. Leopold's daughter Jordan is in that class, and teacher Melissa Stein started following hockey this year, and she realized that she had Nate Prosser as a 2nd grade student, there he is, back in Anoka. She even found his 2nd grade picture and a poem that he had wrote, so she invited the 2 men to the school.
And the kids knowing he was one of my students, I'm telling the truth when I say, hey, work hard, it'll get you places, you know, and so for them to see that he made it, and it's because of his hard work and his good choices and work ethic and all those things we talk about all the time.
You might remember Leopold's daughter wrote a letter to Wild coaches this winter that went viral, asking them to bring her dad back to play in Minnesota. They got a chance to ask questions, best and worst part of the job. They both said great food, best part, worst part, being away from their kids.
Obviously, yeah.
That does it for us.
We'll see you tomorrow.